Hi, welcome to my video about Bitcoin and the blockchain. Before we get started, I just wanted to share this short video with you of Milton Friedman from 1999.
So that I think that the internet is going to be one of the major forces for reducing the role of government. The one thing that's missing, but that will soon be developed, is a reliable e-cash, a method whereby on the internet you can transfer funds from A to B without A knowing B or B knowing A. The way in which I can take a $20 bill and hand it over to you, then there's no record of where it came from. And you may get that without knowing who I am. That kind of thing will develop on the internet, and that will make it even easier for people to use the internet. Of course, it has its negative side. It means that the gangsters, the people who are engaged in illegal transactions will also have an easier way to carry on their business. But I think that the tendency to make it harder to collect taxes will be a very important positive effect.
What is Bitcoin, and where did it come from? And how does this blockchain work? Hopefully after this short video you'll be able to answer all three of those questions. So first, let's see what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin was designed to give a peer-to-peer electronic cash system to the world as an alternative to the fractional banking system most countries use today. It's a form of electronic digital cash, a type of currency. It's made secure with cryptography and is known as cryptocurrency. It's decentralized. Now this means no one person, company, government or country has any power or control over the Bitcoin network. It is, however, controlled by the miners, which I will explain later. It's incredibly safe, utilizing cryptography, proof of work and a distributed peer-to-peer network, each of which I will cover in this video. Bitcoins are kept safe within personal digital wallets, and these wallets are only accessible by the person holding the private key. Bitcoin cannot be deleted, frozen or sanctioned. The only way to stop it would be to turn off the internet. So now we have an idea of what Bitcoin actually is, let's look at where it has come from. It all started with Satoshi Nakamoto. I could be picked up for mispronouncing the name, however no one actually knows who this person is, if it is indeed a person, as it could be a collection of people. And this is where the mystery lies. Nobody to this day knows for sure who it is that created Bitcoin, only that he, she or they went by the title of Satoshi Nakamoto. Satoshi created the blockchain technology which Bitcoin, the first ever digital currency, operates on, which they also created. The supply of Bitcoin is limited to 21 million. Now this is good, as you will never have to worry about inflation decreasing the value of Bitcoins. Also, as the demand for Bitcoins increases, it will drive the price up in the future. The smallest denomination of Bitcoin is known as a Satoshi after its creator and is 100 millionth of one Bitcoin. The current value of one Bitcoin was at £5,590 when I recorded this video, which is an increase of 494% since this time last year. Here is a useful piece of history about the first ever block in the chain. The first block in the chain, which is known as the Genesis block, was mined on the 3rd of January 2009, so this is the birth date of Bitcoin. The Genesis block had a hidden message embedded into it by Satoshi, which is this: The Times, 3rd of January 2009, Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. Here is the news clip which everyone can view on the Times website. It states that the 2009 sitting Chancellor in the UK, Alistair Darling, was forced to consider a second bailout for the banks as the lending drought worsened, as the £37 billion already pumped in was not enough. Now we have a brief history of Bitcoin, we can look at the technology behind it. The blockchain technology developed for Bitcoin is an amalgamation of technologies working together, and without it, Bitcoin wouldn't work. All other cryptocurrencies also require this technology to operate, or at least a very close version of it. So how does a blockchain work? First, we will look at just one block. One block consists of three things: two inputs, the data and the previous hash, and one output, the output hash. Let's look at each of those individually. The first input we will look at is the data. For Bitcoin, this is a from address, a to address, and the amount in question. This is a simplified version. In reality, one block's data will consist of a number of transactions ranging from as little as a few hundred to as many as a couple of thousand. So that's the data. The second input is the previous hash. However, we need to take a quick look at what a hash is before understanding this input. So what is a hash? For Bitcoin, this is an algorithm called SHA-256, the SHA standing for Secure Hash Algorithm. Picture it as a converting computer box. And whatever you put into this box, be it a letter, number, word, phrase, or an entire novel, the output will always be a 256-bit key, which equates to a hexadecimal, that's numbers and letters, string of 64 characters. So it will always be a 64-character hexadecimal output. This is the actual SHA-256 hash for the word anything, as that was my input. So that is the hash. So if we go back to the block, we can see the data and the previous block's hash are used as the inputs to create the block's output SHA-256 hash. This makes the output hash relevant to both the data within the block and the output hash of the previous block. I've tried to demonstrate this here with a chain of 3 blocks. Purely for simplicity, I have used only a 5-character hexadecimal sequence as opposed to the 64 we just talked about to represent both the output hash and the previous hash. In this chain of 3 blocks, block 1 has its 2 inputs, the data and the previous hash. This is hashed together as we saw earlier to create the block's output hash. This is fed into the next block to become block 2's previous hash input. With this input ready, the data, all the transactions, are also fed in as the second input. The inputs are again hashed together to create our unique output hash, which is then fed into the next block to become block 3's previous hash input, and so the chain continues. As you can see though, the previous hash is the output hash of the previous block, so each block is directly connected to the previous block and all of its data. Now we have a basic understanding of a block and how they are linked to each other in a chain, we can move on. The next thing to cover will be proof of work. This is a system that ensures the creation of one block will always take roughly 10 minutes. This means that it doesn't take forever to confirm new blocks, allowing transactions to go through in a fairly short period of time, but it also means that it is long enough to prevent any attacks on the system. Proof of work is essentially a complicated mathematical puzzle, one that I won't go into with too much detail now. Let's just say that these puzzles are really difficult to solve and require computer power to solve them. This computing power is known as hash power. This hash power used to come from individuals all over the world with their home computers attached to the internet. However, nowadays this has changed significantly with the opening of what most people will have heard of as mining farms, essentially warehouses full of computer power devoted to solving these mathematical problems. So a question I can hear you ask is, surely with more computing power the network would be able to solve these puzzles quicker, right? And therefore the blocks would be created in a shorter amount of time? Well, actually the answer to that is no, and this is why. The network is aware of how much computational power is available to it and adjusts the difficulty of this puzzle accordingly, automatically and without any instruction from a master or central computer, as there isn't one. Remember, this is a decentralized system. As more computational power is added to the network, the difficulty of this puzzle increases, keeping the block creation time to that 10 minutes. Likewise though, if the computer power on the network decreases, so will the difficulty of the puzzles, always keeping the block creation time to 10 minutes. So now that we know what a block consists of, how they are linked, and how the network keeps that creation time of a block of transactions to 10 minutes, we need to know why those people allowed their computers to be constantly on, and nowadays why there is such a market for these mining farms. So firstly, let's look at what a miner actually is. A miner, also known as a node, is essentially any computer on the planet that takes part in the solving of these puzzles. As you can imagine, there is quite a few. This can even be your home laptop or PC if you so choose to use it. However, it is unlikely it will be profitable in today's market and will usually consist of mining farms that we saw earlier. The miners are subdivided into pools, essentially pooling resources to enable a better chance of finding the answer to the puzzle. It looks a little like this. As you can see in the top left, I have a picture of a home PC instead of a generic farm. As long as you are connected to a pool, you can loan your processing power to aid the solving of the puzzles. So here comes the why. Why would people allow their computers to be left on all day thinking of the noise and those hefty electricity bills to take part in this mining of Bitcoin? Well, when one of these pools successfully solves the puzzle, the network rewards that pool by issuing them with new Bitcoins. These newly mined bitcoins are then distributed fairly and as a percentage of the amount of work each of the individual computers have put into solving the puzzle. The more power you have, the more of the newly mined bitcoins you will receive. The network is configured to issue a set amount of bitcoin to those miners who successfully solve the puzzle. This amount is currently at 12.5 bitcoin per one block mined, which in UK sterling amounts to £69,875 at the time of recording this video. The network will halve this amount for every 210,000 blocks mined, which equates to around 4 years. Remember, of course, that one block will take 10 minutes to mine. Now we know what a block consists of, how they are linked in terms of the hash, how the network keeps the block creation time to that 10 minutes with the use of proof of work, that complicated math puzzle that varies depending on how much computational power the network has, and we have that all-important incentive for people to provide the computing power required for the blockchain to operate. Let's continue. So once the miners have solved this puzzle, the block is then ready to put into the chain. However, it can't be put straight in. It has to be approved by everyone on the network. This is known as the peer-to-peer distributed network. Each person you see here is representing either a mining farm or home PC. All the miners on the network have a copy of the current blockchain. They each receive a copy of the new block, and each node has to verify that this new block is acceptable. Then there is a sort of electronic vote between the machines, as some miners on the network may think it's a fraudulent block, whereas some think it's valid. As in any democracy, the majority wins, and in this case, the block will be accepted. As soon as the block is verified, deemed acceptable, the block is then updated on everybody's computer, and that is the new and current blockchain. So those are the three main parts to understanding the blockchain. Let's have a quick look back. We now know what a block consists of. Two inputs, the data and the previous block's hash, and one output, the output hash. The secure hash algorithm, SHA-256, and how that creates the unique 64 hexadecimal hash. The unique link between blocks, how the output hash becomes one of the inputs, the previous hash of the next block. We covered proof of work, how the network keeps that block creation time to 10 minutes. It manages this by knowing the amount of computational power on the network and changing the difficulty of that complicated math puzzle as required. We know what a miner is, a home PC, a laptop or a mining farm connected to a pool, and we have that all-important incentive for people to provide the computing power required for the blockchain to operate. And lastly, the peer-to-peer distributed network, where a majority has to agree on any new blocks added to the chain. And that is the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin. I will be making more videos soon. The next 3 will be on how to purchase using the Coinbase platform, how to buy and sell without any fees using Coinbase's GDAX platform, and how to store and keep your Bitcoin, Litecoin and Ethereum safe and secure. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed watching, please press the like and subscribe buttons below, and don't forget to share this on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks.